animals come down and like bark and interrupt the fucking podcast. I see it
fine.
happening already.
I did close the door before I came down.
Yeah.
Someone. Nick went upstairs. Yeah.
1 second. Let me get that.
Sure.
It's recording, by the way, but I can edit it all.
I would certainly hope so.
Okay. No more interruptions.
For now.
Okay, guys, so we're finally doing this. The first episode of the Gear Clash podcast, and probably the last. Honestly, it'll be a success if we have one follower by like the end of the year, not including our girlfriends or any of our actual friends.
We don't have actual friends.
That's
Or
right,
family.
fuck, yeah. I spend too much time with cars, therefore I have no friends. Except you guys, somehow. Well, let's get this started. My name's Tyler. With me is Ryan. Introduce yourself, Ryan.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Tyler can edit this part out. My name is Ryan, and also with us is John.
Hello, John.
Is that close? Say that again.
John.
Are you talk again? Is your mic on? There you go. Okay.
Why wasn't
Okay.
my mic on?
Okay. And with us is John.
Hey, it's John.
We all live around the area. We've been friends. Well, me and Ryan have been friends for like less than a year, but he lives right behind me at my house. And John and I have known each other probably as long as I've been with my girlfriend for like 4 years. About right.
Yeah, about that.
But yeah, we're all car guys in the Northeast. We all grew up in Jersey. We all work on cars for a living. I'm a certified Porsche tech. Ryan, he works at
Certified Audi technician.
yeah, and John,
Certified lawnmower.
certified
Honda.
whatever piece of shit you have coming in the shop.
Certified not, but work on anything.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Where do we start?
Typically, I introduce John as my crazy Volvo friend.
Or just crazy friend.
But yeah, we wanted to start this podcast to do something like to express how much, we love cars, and we wanted to share that passion with, like, hopefully other people around here. I know there's other podcasts. Majority of them I listen to are on the West Coast. You got, like, Driving While Awesome and Camden Tub, and those are awesome podcasts to listen to. Give them a listen if you haven't. And Camden Tub is actually the Midwest, but there's also Auto Off Topic, which is a popular podcast in the Northeast in Massachusetts. And there doesn't really seem to be any podcasts in Jersey, so I was like, hey, we'll be the first automotive podcast out of Jersey. Well, what do you want to start with? Like, what we all drive?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, Ryan, you start out.
Sure. All right, I drive a 2009 Audi A4. Not too many frills on it, but it is a manual with the sport package. It's got the nice seats. Not a whole lot left of it is stock as far as the original sport suspension. Upgraded the turbo a little bit too, just to a hybrid KO4 setup. A couple other bolt-ons. Make it a fun daily driver.
And before that, you had, like, what? Didn't you have the Mazda 6? Was it?
I had an earlier A4 for a whopping 5 weeks. And then before that, I had a 2006 Mazda 3 that I daily drove commuting to school and whatnot.
Okay. John, what Volvo haven't you fucking owned?
A lot.
Okay, well, you got the S60R as your primary one right now, I know.
Yeah,
And
that's my daily.
yeah.
But trying to get my 96 850R back on the road.
Try to bring your mics closer, kind of like how I am. Yeah, there we go. That's fair. Sorry. It wasn't coming up clear. But yeah, continue.
So yeah, I'm trying to get my 96 850R back on the road. It's more trying to get the motivation at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just too cold and not enough time in the day.
Too rusty.
No, actually, that one's not rusty.
Well, that one's the wagon, right? The black one.
Yeah, it's just got body damage, not rust.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
And you have the 2-door, which is my favorite.
Yeah, trying to decide what motor I want to put in it.
And I was with you a couple months ago. We just pulled that engine out of what was that? The one that you crushed. It was that 2-door or 4-door that we pulled out. Remember?
Which one? The
The
one
one
at my
you-
house still?
Yeah, the one at your house still. It's like sitting. The engine's sitting there, and the car is still sitting there, and it's yet to be crushed.
Yeah, every time I go to crush it, it snows. Mother Nature doesn't want me to get rid of it yet.
You really are unmotivated. It snowed twice.
Yeah, but the time it didn't snow, my dad's car was blocking it in for 3 months while we were waiting for parts.
And then you also have your other wagon that's your girlfriend, or I should say soon-to-be wife's car.
Yeah, we got that as a winter beater for one season, and she ended up wanting to keep it. So
And what year was that one again? That was
a 99 V70R.
99 V70R. And then you got me. Let's see. We'll start from the beginning. I owned my first car in high school was a 2001 Volkswagen Jetta
VR6.
VR6. Sounds awesome until you then say it was an automatic. Unfortunately, this was before all the big vape guys got a hold of them and started doing air ride and the teak flooring in the rear trunks and everything. I would have kept that car if it was stick, but that car literally gave me a problem every other month. I remember one time the secondary water pump went, and the next month the drive belt started to shred on it because the shop I brought it to at the one time, because I didn't have time to work on it, put the wrong drive belt on it. It had one too many ribs. So like, oh yeah, it's run fine now until I'm driving to work at 3 in the morning and the belt just shreds itself to pieces. But yeah, I had that, and in the time I had that, shortly after I got 03 Mustang Mach 1, and that I got I was in county college when I had that. That was a fun car until it got rear-ended by a Mustang driver, and this was before the Mustang memes. So
That's what actually started it.
Yeah, that's what actually started it, and it was the Vanilla Ice edition. It was a 5.0 Fox body convertible. Him and his bros just come right behind me and rear-ended me. It twisted the frame. That thing was done. I loved that car. The thing only had like 25,000 miles on it when it got totaled.
Most Mustangs only have 25.
But yeah, I had like just I didn't really have anything crazy done to that car. It was just some Toyo R 888s, like 305s in the back, and I think it was like 295s in the front, and like a MagnaFlow catback exhaust. And then with the insurance money from that, I was like, okay, I can find something a bit nicer, and I found 01 Pontiac Trans Am WS6 that I got. I still have that to this day. And then I eventually replaced the Jetta with a 97 Blazer 2-door, and that's a car I still have today. That's a beater. I drive that to work every day. And this past year I got a 2017 Subaru BRZ 6-speed. I love that car. And right before Christmas, I picked up the car I blame for making me the gearhead I am today is a 87 Chrysler Conquest, or also known as a Mitsubishi Starion. And my mom had that car when I was a kid, and I love that car to death. Unfortunately, I have to like send the whole motor out because the previous owner sent a bit too much boost to the engine, and let's just say piston 2 doesn't really like compression much anymore.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
But yeah, he melted the piston, but everything else in the engine seems to be fine. I'm getting that shipped out and looked over, and forged pistons put in it, and that should be running hopefully by spring, summertime. But yeah, that's our car history. How about when do we all start getting into cars exactly? I know me, shortly after being born, probably like when I was like 5, I remember playing with cars as a kid and stuff like that. And like I said, my mom had the Chrysler Conquest, and that like got me hooked. What about you guys? Like,
I think I came out on a car. I think
What?
I just drove out.
like okay, I thought you like got shot out the back, and they're like, oh crap, the kid came out the back.
No, that would have scarred me for life. But my parents say my first words were Porsche, so I guess that gives you
And
a little
yet-
insight on.
And yet, I'm the one working on Porsches.
But I'm the one who owned one.
Yeah, you owned one.
Tried selling it to you.
Yeah, and I didn't have money at the time, unfortunately. And now I feel like an idiot because every Porsche is $10,000 more than it was a year ago because frickin' Porsche bubble. I blame Magnus Walker, I think, for that. Ever since like he started becoming popular, I feel like around that time, Porsche values have started going up. But now you start to see like the bubble on Porsches like decreasing, and it's maybe not like falling, but it's plateauing now. But yeah.
Well, when I got mine, I was looking at a turbo model, and the 944 turbos were going for like $4,500, $5,000 back when I was looking. But I didn't want to spend the extra $2,000 because I was only 18. So I was like, oh, I'll just get an A1. And now I look, and everyone's $25,000 for a decent turbo. Man, I'm kicking myself.
Well, well, either everybody who has one, they either want the turbo ones or they want to LS swap them. But I mean, everybody wants to LS swap anything nowadays, I feel like. And I don't know, everybody always tells me like, oh, you should LS swap your BRZ, or you should LS swap your, I know you told me, oh, let's LS swap the Conquest or whatever. I'm like, I have my LS already, I don't need to swap it.
Well, you were going to sell the Trans Am, so just take the motor out and put it
I
back.
know, yeah, I could have done that, but my other half would murder me, to say the least.
That's because it's not really your car; it's her car.
Oh, okay. I hope she listens to this and hears that.
I don't think anyone's going to listen to this.
Okay, so yeah, Ryan or John, like me, basically from birth, kinda. What about you, Ryan?
I have a little bit of a different story.
Okay.
I always had an interest in cars, but it wasn't, something that was, very involved with my life until I was spending some time at NJIT, and it wasn't going particularly well. So I decided to think about what I actually wanted to do with my life. So I happened to go out for a couple drinks with a good friend of mine, and we started talking about cars. I realized I hadn't entirely pursued that interest fully, and I ended up going to school for cars. And 2 months out, got a call from Audi, and it's almost 5 years with them now.
And you've always been with Audi too, right? You.
He worked with
I worked with John at Honda. I was there for about just over a year and 2 months or so.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, I forgot about that. That was like before my time, before I knew both of you, I believe.
You didn't exist before us.
Is that putting it lightly?
You didn't matter before us.
Okay, so some of us started earlier in the cars, some of us started later, but in the end, we all love cars, and they're a part of our everyday, mostly. That being said, you guys done anything lately to your cars? I know John's
Drove
like,
it here. That's about it.
Yeah, I think all of us have been on hold, mostly because it's like 23 outside or colder. Except like a few days ago, it was like 60, but I didn't have anything to do, so. Yeah, anything new with you? Well, you just did a KO4, didn't you, in the Audi A4?
Yeah, I just put it in at the start of September, and it made a huge difference. Lost a little bit of torque down low, but I did go with one of the more conservative tunes on the car, off the shelf that's available. But at the time the car had 130 on it, and up to 140 now. Knock on wood, no problems at all. Drives great. It's made it a blast as a daily driver.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I said, on my end, I haven't really done much. I mean, I got the BRZ back in March, so I've almost had it for a year now. The only thing I've done is Rally Armor mud flaps.
And the vape vent.
No, I haven't done the vape vent yet. I need to find out which vape I want to do. I don't know if I should do blueberry or if I should do peach. I hear peach adds a bit more horsepower than blueberry, though.
Schnozberry. it makes you go faster.
But the blueberry stains your exhaust tips blue, which I hear the kids like nowadays.
But other than the BRZ, that was like a big purchase for me, so I've just been like trying to be tame on any modifications I do. I want to do a full exhaust system on it yet. I haven't really decided what brand to go with. But then I got the 87 Conquest, which I started looking at in the summertime, and I knew once I saw this thing, I knew I was going to get it. I just wanted to hold off a bit and wait till after winter, but unfortunately the guy who was selling it, he was holding it for me for a bit. He had sell it a bit sooner than planned because he's moving, so that was why, like, literally like 2 weeks before Christmas, I head out to PA with my buddy. We go to pick up the thing, and they're saying, oh, there's going to be a big snowstorm. It was like around like 10 o'clock, I want to say. It was not really anything coming down. We get halfway there, flurries start coming down. And mind you, I drove 30 minutes to his house in my Trans Am, which is on our 888s, which are great tires unless you're driving in the fucking dead of winter, because then it's like driving on hockey pucks. But driving there wasn't bad, but then by the time I get back to his place with the trailer and in his driveway, my car is covered, his driveway is covered in snow. I'm trying to back the thing out of the driveway. I can't even back up out of the driveway. We throw kitty litter down in the driveway. After like 10, 15 minutes, I get the thing out of the driveway. I'm driving from his house to my house. He's got my car on the trailer. I'm in front of him in the Trans Am, and the Trans Am is just going sideways up this road, and I'm just like revving the shit out of it because I can't go anywhere, and it's moving sideways up the whole road, and this lady shoveling her driveway is looking at me like, this fucking idiot in his Trans Am, what is he doing?
We gotta give it credit. It's never seen snow before. It's new to it.
Yeah, trust me, the differential was working very, very hard that day. But, yeah, so I got that in my garage now, and I pulled the engine out of that. The head was basically off of it already. We just, like, rested it on it when we picked it up so we could have all the parts in the car and stuff, because I didn't want to have the head rolling around in his truck. But, yeah, I pulled the whole engine out, and that is going to get sent to a machine shop out in Ohio and get completely looked over, and that'll burn another hole in my pocket, but I'll have that running by spring, summertime, like I said. But that's going to be the next thing I splurge on before I do anything to the BRZ or the Trans Am. And speaking of the Trans Am, I have like Bilsteins for that I got last year. I haven't put in yet because I still need to get the lowering springs for it, because that thing has 4x4 height from factory. You can literally fist the wheel wells on those.
I think I tried to park in the wheel wells one time thinking it was your garage.
But, yeah, that's all I've done really lately to my cars, other than basic routine maintenance and stuff. I haven't done much to them at all. Anything else going on with you guys? Anything new? Any new things at work, or any new tools or shit you got?
I'm trying not to spend too much money on tools. Trying to buy a house, but not going so well.
I'm just trying not to spend too much money on tools.
I wish I had
tools and beer. I'm trying to cut down on those spending.
I wish I had money to spend. All I have money to spend on is goddamn bills.
Oh yeah, the Snap-on, my mortgage.
Hi, welcome to the Snap-on truck. Don't come on the truck because the air costs 50 cents per minute you breathe. So did you guys see in the news that Dan Gurney died the other night? I think it was last night he died.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, that was that's probably one of the big losses. Gonna be one of the bigger losses this year, I think, in like the automotive world. He, I don't have as much of a racing background, like when it comes to like following racing, as I did when I was younger. I used to follow like IMSA and stuff a lot more and all that. And lately with work and everything, you know, like I have no time. Like I'll watch like the Rolex 24 Daytona, which is coming up in a week or two, and I'll watch like Sebring and stuff. But I never have time to like keep track of the other races. It's like so hard to follow. And I used to like watching NASCAR when I was a kid, but I can't even stand watching NASCAR. It gets boring. It's like you watch a Daytona 500 and you can't even sit through a whole race. It's like, okay, I'll watch the first 10 minutes and I'll watch the last 10 minutes. And if there's a fight in between, that's an added bonus. I was looking at the news earlier and I saw, I don't know if you read this, but Mercedes now, they're doing straight 6 AMGs. They're going to be doing the CLS AMG 53 line. They're going to be 3-liter cars now with twin turbo, and they're rated at 435 horsepower and 384 pound-feet of torque. What do you guys think of this? Like, I know AMG has always been like and they're kind of always been like the German muscle car, I guess you can say. Like, they've always been about like going sideways and like tire smoke and loud V8s and everything. And now they're trying to, I guess, downsize like everybody's been doing and going with a straight 6, which I'm not completely against, but I can see how some people will be like, oh, that's not what AMG's about, because everything in the past, I want to say like 10 years or so, has been like the C63 AMG, the CLS 63 AMG. They've always been like very rowdy cars. What do you guys think of them going to like a straight 6 with twin turbos as opposed to an 8-cylinder?
I'm sure it's going to be a really nice engine, but I'm partial to the V8s and the V10s. And the V12s. I don't think AMG should have taken a step back in cylinders, but I guess we'll see reliability and tunability down the road.
And another thing they say here is the CLS. I don't know if it's gonna be all of them, but they're all saying they're the 4MATIC, and that's referring to the transmission as well as the differential, isn't it? And those, 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's 4-wheel drive.
And that's also refers to them being a dual clutch transmission too, doesn't it? Because the Matic part.
I don't think that. I think it's mostly just the 4-wheel drive, but I'm
okay.
not.
Well, I'm probably gonna get shit because somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, you don't know what the 4MATIC means," but I feel like, I mean,
AMGs used to be 2-wheel drive and.
Well, yeah. Now, ever since the earlier C63 AMGs, they started going to the all-wheel drive system. I think that was like 2012 or something. They went to an all-wheel drive system, but it was more rear-wheel drive biased to kind of like keep people happy. But
I think they should have still offered a rear-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive version, because I know a lot of true AMG people are not going to want an all-wheel drive AMG.
And I mean, they have rear-wheel drive stuff still, but it's like the AMG GT, and like the SLS AMG, which came before that, but they're not like as common of a car for like, you know, people to afford. Like, whereas the C63 AMG, you didn't have to be like spending like $120,000 on a C63 AMG. I think an AMG GT, you're spending at least $130,000, I want to say, on an AMG GT. But I like the AMGs because, like I said, they're like Germany's muscle car kind of. But I'm not opposed to them doing this straight six setup with twin turbo. I mean, I believe the older AMGs, like in the 90s, those weren't all 8 cylinders. Some of them, I think, were 6 cylinders too. I could be wrong. But I think like they had the AMG Hammers. Were those V8s? Do you remember? AMG Hammer. Let me check real quick here.
Personally, I don't particularly have a problem with them going to straight sixes. It's a proven engine design. BMW went with it in a good deal of their cars. Most notably the current M3 and M4. They have different variations of straight sixes throughout their lineup.
Even the X5s, everything's going to either 4-cylinder turbo or 6-cylinder. Nothing's a V8 anymore, it seems.
Plus, it's almost creating a different segment in the AMG. For example, Audi, they have their new 2.9 liter hot bank twin turbo V6 going in the RS4 and the RS5, and yet in all the larger models they've got their very well proven 4 liter twin turbo V8, just like BMW.
Yeah.
I believe they use a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8, and then they've got their twin turbo straight 6 in the M3 and the M4 and other models. So it's sort of a balance. I don't want to call it a lesser price point, but it's also something quite potent to stick in some of the smaller bodied cars.
Yeah. And doesn't the RS3, is that a 5-cylinder they're doing in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Audi fully from the ground up redid their 2.5 liter 5-cylinder turbo, and that is currently in the RS3, the TTRS, and over in Europe, the RSQ3.
Yeah, and I wish I'd bring the RSQ3. I mean, we don't need another crossover, but I always like didn't they do a RSQ5 or they only do a SQ5?
They have an SQ5.
Yeah, that's another one. That's one I think they should do an RS version of instead of the RSQ3, but I don't work at Audi, so I don't make that decision. But I like the RS3s because I've always been a fan of like the B5 generation Audis, like the S4s and the RS4s.
Yes, it is just about that size.
Yeah, it's like about the same size, and like everything now is like they're getting faster and like more power with all the newer cars and stuff, but they're getting so much like fucking bigger. Like look at the M3 and the M4. Those things are the size of what 5 Series used to be now.
Yep, and people are starting to call, the M2 a little bit more of a purist car.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit smaller, little bit, I don't want to say, I would say almost more, strictly driver focused, whereas
the M3 is like just driving a computer. That's pretty much what it is.
Well, let's be honest. That's like how everything is. Like that's part of
why. Yeah, but
like,
when you buy an M3, you don't want to buy a car that's going to drive itself for you. You want to you want to buy an M3 so you can drive your car.
Yeah, but a lot of like diehard guys like us are more like that. But I feel like you get more of those. Like I get customers at work all the time. They're like the business guy who like wants to have his Bluetooth and all that stuff and everything, and they're like, oh, everybody wants this, and they add all that stuff to the cars, and it starts to take away from what their original vision was. And like a company like BMW, for example, I feel like they've been like, everybody's been saying it, they've been like, they're kind of like lost right now. They've been like pulling away, I want to say, like from like being the ultimate driving machine. That used to be like their motto. Now it's like...
Well, the car is the ultimate driving machine because you don't have to be in it.
Well, I think that'd be Tesla. Unless you're like watching Harry Potter and it happens to go off the road and you get your head cut off because you go through a tractor trailer.
Yeah, well, Teslas, I would definitely drive one because I don't have to drive it there.
They're really quick. I've been in one and... tried the launch control, and when you do the launch control in a Tesla, it's unlike anything you've ever felt, and it's like almost uncomfortably quick. Like Matt Farah from the Smoking Tire has said that, and being in one, like I completely understand what he's saying because your body's not used to like instant
yeah,
torque
they're
like that.
instant torque. You don't
Yeah.
have to wait for turbo lag. You don't have to wait for the RPMs to
Yeah.
raise to get your torque curve up. It's
Yeah.
just there. I wonder how the drivetrain is going to last with that launch control with the instant power.
Well, do you guys see that the Tesla Roadster that got unveiled a couple 2 months ago? They had a video of the guy doing the launch control on that, and I just see that thing coming out, which whenever they say it's coming out, I can't remember the date. It's not going to be that date. I mean, look at the Tesla Model 3. That they can't even meet the numbers for that car. I think they've only made 1,500 so far. They just don't have the manpower to make those cars. But back to what I was saying, those cars are so quick, people aren't going to be used to it. I'm just imagining them going off into the woods and so many of those cars getting into accidents from day one.
Well, the thing is, I don't think that you can get an accident into Tesla because they have so much collision avoidance that, and with the traction control and everything else, I don't think it'll let you go off the road.
I understand what you're saying, but there's also been times where it's Tesla's they'll see you'll be in autopilot mode or whatever, and it'll see a little baby and a dog. The car doesn't have it's not like a human where it's it doesn't know which one to take. So the car might be okay, I'm gonna hit that baby. That seems to be less of a risk than hitting the dog. Or if it was a tree and a person, it might be that tree looks a bit smaller than that person. I'm gonna go for that. But the people rely too much, I think, on the autopilot of the Teslas, and that's why you get.
Oh yeah, you see that video of the guy sleeping in traffic?
Yeah. That's a perfect example. People abuse it. You give them something like autopilot. Or even years ago when people first started getting cruise control, it's like that. People abuse that, but you give somebody a car that'll drive by itself, they start oh, I can focus more on texting now and stuff, and it's no, that's not how it works. You just can't go straight from 0 to 100 like that. That's how you're gonna cause accidents right away.
Well, see, I always wondered if you can get a texting while driving ticket in a Tesla when you're using autopilot. Because if the thing drives itself, you don't technically have to be paying attention.
I think you have to be. I think they want you to be aware though, because after X amount of time, it tells you to put your hands back on the wheel to continue doing autopilot. So.
Yeah, I found that out with an Audi one time. I tried to abuse the privilege of lane keep assist, and it said put your hands back on the wheel, and I didn't, and all of a sudden it was all right, fuck you then, and it goes straight through the curb.
But that's going to be, one of the big moral debates. What's the car supposed to decide to do? Is it supposed to protect, the driver, or is it, going to end up in a situation where it can avoid injuring several other people outside of the car with the potential of putting, the car into an accident that could potentially injure the driver?
That's a good point, because my boss actually made the same point. Working at a body shop, we see accidents 10 times a day, and he said, is it going to come down to the point where, okay, you mow down a crowd of 10 people to save the driver, or is it save the 10 people and kill the driver?
Exactly.
Is it be on the cover of the front page newspaper, or be in the obituaries? Oh, guy drives off the road and kills himself.
Well, I think the Mustang only has the one option.
Well, I think that goes on Facebook before anything else, or any meme page. You have something else, Ryan? Or
Yeah, while we were on the subject of BMWs, I was just wondering what everyone's thoughts on the new M5 being all-wheel drive. Granted, BMW has said that they can make it, I don't know if it was entirely rear-wheel drive or pretty much primarily rear-wheel drive, but this is the first full-blown, quote-unquote, performance M car that has all-wheel drive,
Now,
the X5M and X6M aside.
Now, this is the F90, right? The new one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just found out about the F90 not too long ago. I remember, I think it was, leaked, actually, in, some Japanese magazine or some shit like that. Some publication leaked like it wasn't a full production version, but like they're like, I want to say prototypes. The only differences are like the mirrors or whatever. But I remember it being leaked, and like it didn't really look that different to me. But I didn't realize it was all-wheel drive. But that doesn't surprise me because, like we said before, AMG's going all-wheel drive with a rear-wheel. It's going to be rear-wheel drive biased, which I imagine what the BMW M5 will be, because they want to be able to, for the driver to, like kick the car out and have fun, but still be able to like not wrap the thing around a damn tree.
Well, that's the thing. Like with an M3, they used to be smaller and more nimble, go around and track better. But the 5 Series, they're more like boats. So I think the all-wheel drive will actually help it go around the turn.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I'm looking here, yeah, the F90, the new one. Like it looks. It doesn't look awful, but I don't know. All their cars are starting to like blend together to me. Like,
yeah, from the front, I don't know if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah. Like I said, like they're all getting so much bigger. The other cars now, it's like that's a 5 Series. No, that's a 3 Series. What? Yeah, the 3 Series is a 4-door now, and the 4 Series is a 2-door. Like they're all starting to blend. I think it was so stupid how like back a few years ago when the M4 came out, or the M3 came out, they decided to be like, oh, no, the 2-door one's going to be the M4 now. The 4-door one will be the M3 now. So if it's like a odd number, it's going to be 4 doors. Even number will be 2 doors. I think they should have kept it like, okay.
Yeah, but that's what Audi's doing right now, right? With the 5s and the 7s.
Yeah,
it's mainly 2 doors.
Yeah.
Yes, and the A7's, the 4-door fastback coupe-styled sedan. But I think a lot of the all-wheel drive higher-end performance cars are, starting to become more of a thing as the generations come out. The RS7 and the RS6 Avant sort of took everyone hugely by surprise back in 2012 when they first came out, putting out that kind of power. And, with the all-wheel drive, they were just stomping on, any particular competition. Granted, even if the competition had more power, they still weren't able to, catch up in certain quarter miles or half-mile races.
Now, the new M5, I see here it's 591 horsepower, it seems, and 553 pound-feet of torque. Is that much different from the... That doesn't seem to be different from the last generation. I'm looking here... Last generation F10, that was fill in the dead space. Okay, like with a competition package, whatever thousands more that cost, that was 591 and 516. So it seems all you're getting is like a bit more torque with the newer one. Is it the same engine too? Yeah, okay, it's the same engine. S63 B44, S63 B44. Okay, yeah. So it's just the same engine essentially, just the driveline is all-wheel drive now as opposed to rear-wheel drive. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it'll sell good because like people still buy BMWs. It's like I feel like we're the minority when it comes to like, oh, it's not the same as the old one, and all that stuff, but. I'm sure it'll do well. I'm sure it'll be a great car too. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'd like to drive it. Like,
oh sure.
Yeah, but it's crazy how now if you want like a strict driving car with like no computers,
BRZ.
It's either a BRZ or you gotta buy like a 911R or something. It's opposite ends of the spectrum. You can't get like a mid-range just driver. Everything is over the top with traction control, stability assist, all this. I mean, yeah, traction control we need for safety because you get the majority of people who don't know how to drive.
Well, yeah, that's like just we're going on a lot of tangents, but yeah, like that all started with the when they brought the Viper back. They had to stop doing the Viper at one point because it started becoming a requirement that all cars had to have ABS, traction control, and stability management.
Yep.
And then the Viper came back. I think it was like after 4 years or something in like 2012, I want to say around there is when it came back, and that's when they introduced all the traction control stuff. But that's how more and more cars are getting, unfortunately. But like,
yeah, but then you get the people that just want a driver that, you know, not so much on the road, but take it to the track without doing hundreds of dollars and thousands of modifications just to make it, you know, not computer controlled anymore.
yeah, I get that. And like, some of them aren't bad. Like, you get some cars where it's like completely invasive, the traction control. Like, you can feel it like taking over. Where there's other cars like 911s, for example, their traction control is not too bad. You can you know it's there in the background, but it's like just keeping you like alive. It's not like completely ruining the experience for you. But there's some other cars I know, I can't name any off the top of my head really, that like I think the Volkswagen Golf R, a lot of people say the traction control can be a little invasive on those.
I believe that was on the 2012 and 2013 models where you could not fully disable the traction control completely.
My S60R, you have different settings of traction control, and even when it says it's off, it's not completely off. And when you take it out in a parking lot in the snow, you know it's still there, even though you have majority of control over it. You'll still feel it kick in, and it's annoying.
And that adjusts the traction control. Is that adjust separate from choosing, like, you have like, was it Sport and like a Sport Plus kind of thing?
Yeah, it's separate. My chassis settings and throttle settings are separate than traction control.
Okay.
You can turn traction control. You can reduce it, which is I think 50%, and then you can go down to probably 10 or 15%, but you still know it's there. It lets you have a little bit more fun, but you still can't do everything that you want to do, and it's just how cars are going now.
Yeah, definitely how cars are going, unfortunately.
Everything's a liability now. You gotta make it pretty much dummy proof, and
even still people will fuck it up.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Were you gonna say something, Ryan?
One last bit, I suppose, on the M5. I'd be interested to see, how all the publicists sort of review it. Whereas a lot of the times with the bigger Audis, they'll say they'll push through turns. Interested to see how BMW try and combat understeer with the engine and transmission placement, with it being all-wheel drive.
I remember hearing on certain publications like Motor Trend and Smoking Tire and stuff, for example, I think it was like the last generation M5, the F10, people would be like, oh, the thing understeers like a pig. And I think certain journalists were like, no, you just have to like change your driving style. It's how you're driving the car that's making it understeer like a pig. But like, some people forget that like everybody's driving style is different. So some guy might say it understeers like a pig. Other guy be like, oh no, you gotta drive it like this. You're used to driving the cars like that like in. You're used to driving cars one way, so you drive that car that way, and it's gonna behave
completely different.
Completely different, yeah. Like the B5 S4s, for example, they were like, people always said those things were notorious for understeering. I haven't driven one, but I know people say those things understeer like pigs. But yeah, like I'm sure all-wheel drive systems now, compared to like a B5 S4, for example, they have come a long way since then. That's like more than 10 years, and I'm sure they probably won't understeer as bad as the older ones.
Oh, sure. I wasn't necessarily talking, on the road or even spirited, back road driving. I was more so talking about when you're really pushing it to the limit on the track.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Detroit Auto Show was this week. Did you guys see any of the unveilings that happened?
Nope.
Nope.
I've been extremely busy, and
Yeah.
I've not even had time to go on my phone.
Well, Ford, I know John doesn't care about this. Ford unveiled the new Bullet Edition Mustang. I don't know if you remember, they did a Bullet Edition of, I want to say it was around right when they did the retro styling for the Mustang in like 05, 06, they did a Bullet Mustang.
Yes, they did.
And then they did it on the New Edge style, which came before that, which is what my Mach 1 body style was, like the 03, 04. Well, now they're finally doing one, and it doesn't look bad. Like, the new Mustangs, I'll be honest, when they first came out, I didn't care for them that much because, like everybody, I think, they're like, oh, it looks like a Honda Accord in the front. That was, like, the biggest
Well,
comparison.
the whole thing looks like an Accord coupe, pretty much, especially from the side.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like, I still...
I'm not saying it looks bad, but I'm just saying it
Yeah.
resembles an Accord coupe.
Like,
I have heard that people do appreciate it more when you actually get to see it in person.
Yeah. I'll have to say that, like, since they changed it to that style in the past, it's been like 3 years now they've been on that style, 2 years.
I was a huge fan of that when they first unveiled that. I thought it was an excellent blending of, the modern and retro.
Yeah, I agree with that. The front has grown on me a lot more because the rear three quarters of the car I loved, because the rear three quarters of that car remind me of the old fastback Mustangs, and that was probably like 67 fastback is probably like my favorite body style of the Mustang.
Agreed.
Yeah. But the new Bullet Mustang they unveiled, it's your typical the dark green with black wheels and stuff, and
The only thing that weirds me out is that they put bright red calipers on it. I'm just not the biggest fan of it with the green.
That might be a bit too flashy or Christmassy.
Either or.
Season.
They could have gone with yellow or silver or just black.
But yeah, honestly, I probably would prefer just black. But
Like black with red lettering or something.
Sure.
Something a little bit more subtle.
It seems it's got a bit of a power bump. Nothing crazy. They're saying here on Jalopnik, 475 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque. And it's just with a top speed of 163, which is just slightly faster than the current GT. But obviously, they're not going to go all balls out because they still have to do the new GT 350 or 500, whatever they're going to do this year, probably. But I think it's a good-looking car overall. I've always liked that Bullet design. That's like...
And does that have the flat plane crank in it, or is it still cross
I
plane?
believe that's
the
cross plane. The
Yeah.
flat plane crank is only in the Voodoo, which is in the GT350.
Yeah, which
I didn't know if the Bullet was coming out with a flat plane.
No, that's a 5.0 Coyote still. Yeah, but that 5.2 flat plane crank, that engine sounds menacing. That's one of the best sounding V8s out on the market right now, I think.
Plus, being able to rev it out a bit more helps.
Yeah. I've been up to close to those cars in person, and I'm a big Camaro fan. I mean, I own a Firebird, but the GT350, I think I would take that over a new Camaro ZL1 or ZL1 1LE. They're just they're more about handling than they are raw horsepower, like your Hellcats and stuff like that. That's why they appeal to me more. But, yeah, I'm sure the Bullet Mustang will probably sell well. And they also unveiled... I don't really care much about crossovers. I'm sure you guys don't either. But
I drive wagons, so I can't say anything.
Okay, they unveiled they're doing a Ford Edge ST. I didn't know we needed a Ford Edge ST.
I didn't even know we needed a Ford Edge.
Well, apparently we do, and I guess it's kind of cool. Like, it's a high horsepower SUV, not super high. It's like 385 horsepower, or something like that.
It's still
I think it's about 300. Yeah, the 2.7 liter. I think it's about 330.
No, I think
horsepower.
It's the bigger EcoBoost, I think.
The 3.5.
The 3.5?
3.5, yeah.
But I think it has about 380 foot-pounds of torque, which
Let me
is
check here.
up there. But I mean, if you think about it, they just came out in 2017 with the Fusion Sport, which they put the 2.7 in, and then they're seeing if they have a market for it, or the focus groups think they have a market for it. That's you're looking at a less expensive SQ5.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Yeah, here they say it's gonna be. Okay, it's a 2.7.
Haha.
335 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque, which means it'll probably be quicker than my Trans Am.
Yeah, but it also has, 20 years on it? Almost?
Nearly.
18.
Age is just a number, John. You should know this.
And prison's just a room.
But, I don't know, it's not an ugly-looking car or anything, but it's not stick, so that's what turns me off right away, but I don't think half of the soccer moms out in the world, who I think is what they're trying to go for, are going to be like, oh, I want stick.
This might be besides the point, but I don't think they ever made the Ford Edge in stick.
Yeah, they didn't. But the fact that it's an ST, and this is going to be the only ST that's not offered in stick.
That's fair.
Yeah. But, I'm amazed they did a Ford Edge ST, and they didn't be like, oh, hey, guys, we're going to do Ford F-150 Lightning. And I don't know if you
that's
remember.
what I think most people care about, not a Edge ST. They want the Lightning back.
Yeah. And I know, people are like, oh, you can't make all your money off of, high-performance trucks, but let's be honest, that would
but
probably
who's going to use a Ford Edge ST over a Lightning?
Yeah, that's true. And
like you said, soccer moms, but
Lightning has more history on it too, as opposed to an Edge ST, which is something completely newer. So I feel like finding buyers for a new Lightning would be way easier than be like, oh, we got this
Well, yeah, because you got the people that have Lightnings now.
Yeah,
that
and
would
want them or
want a new daily.
One. Exactly.
And they would probably splurge and spend money on a new Lightning rather than a Edge ST.
But I don't know if you guys remember, 6 months ago, there was a dealer. I could be wrong, but I think they were out of Florida, and they took Ford F-150, the base F-150 regular cabs, and they were the stripper models. I think they had crank windows even, and they put in a bigger engine and everything and rebranded it as a Lightning.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and apparently those were selling good out of that dealer, and the dealer themselves, it wasn't anything Ford did, it was something the dealer came up with, and the dealer rebadged them as Lightnings, and they were pretty cool. And I don't know why Ford didn't see that and be like, hey, maybe we should do this.
Well, even because they just came out with the Rangers again. Why not make a performance Ranger?
Yeah, and I guarantee they're going to throw a diesel in that. I don't know if they announced if they're going to doing that, but
that would be a good seller.
Well, with the success of the Chevy Colorado, it's only natural that the Ranger made its way back.
Well, I was looking. They unveiled a new Silverado 1500 at Detroit, and that's getting a diesel now. But what's going to happen is the Colorado diesel, you're spending $50-something thousand on that truck. It's it's supposed to be there's no such thing as a small cheap truck anymore.
Nope.
Well, it's not even small. It's the size of an old 1500.
Yeah, it's the size of an 01 1500. It's
my cousin has a diesel. I think it's a Canyon, not a Colorado. But I mean,
yeah.
the thing is still the size of a 1500.
Yeah.
An old 1500.
And I think Dodge was the first one to do a 1500 diesel. Then
yeah, they were.
Yeah, and then Ford followed.
I think them and Chevy basically just both announced that they were putting a 6-cylinder diesel in the
Chevy
1500 and F-150.
Yeah, Chevy's using straight 6, I believe, an inline 6 diesel Duramax. I can't remember the power on it, but it seems everybody's doing smaller trucks with diesels now, and
smaller engines.
Yeah.
Now they're going to the 6. Now Ford's the only one left with a V8 diesel.
Yeah. And like the only small truck anymore that I feel like doesn't have a diesel is like your Toyota Tacoma, which is honestly
Well, now that Nissan has Cummins.
yeah, exactly. And
I mean, Honda doesn't have anything.
yeah, Honda the Element is kind of like a
Ridgeline.
Yeah,
Right,
Element's
Ridgeline.
extinct.
Yeah, that's what I meant, Ridgeline. I don't know why I'm thinking Element, but the Ridgeline, like I've seen those and like they seem like a van with a pickup bed because they look just like the van in the front.
Well, they were always based off the Pilots.
Yeah, the Pilot. Yeah.
Yeah, but the bed opens up for the trunk.
Oh, that.
And now you
okay.
have speakers in the bed.
Okay, I'm sold.
For when
now.
you want to sit in the bed and listen to your music, you have speakers in the bed.
You can herd cattle now with attracting them with your music from your speakers in your pickup bed.
Pretty much.
There's nothing else. One more thing in the news. There was Ford said they're bringing back the Mach 1 name. I know we're a Ford-centric podcast now. I don't know if you caught on. Ford just bought us out. The podcast is going to rust away, just like their vehicles. No, I'm sorry. I love
We'll
Ford.
make it past the second podcast.
No, I'm kidding. I love Fords. I've owned them, so I have no hate for them. But I see they announced they're bringing the Mach 1 name back, which I was like, oh, yeah, the Mach 1, awesome. Then they're like, yeah, it's going to come back in 2020, a fully electric car.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I'm like...
Shouldn't it be a Watt 1 or something?
A gigawatt?
That's clever. We need to copyright that.
But, yeah, I feel like they should have used a different name, not Mach 1, for an electric car. And they said I think all they said is they're bringing Mach 1 back, not Mustang Mach 1. But I don't know if it's like implied that it's obviously going to be a Mustang Mach 1, but
I guess it's the same thing with the GTR, where they dropped the Skyline off of it.
it could be like that, yeah. Except I feel like a electric Skyline would somehow do a lot better than an electric Mustang.
I think the electric Skyline might be popular.
Well, there's
if it
also
did
that
come out.
rumor that the next one may be like a part hybrid or something like that, or have a hybrid option, but who knows what they're going to do with that.
Well, we know they're still going to make it automatic.
As long as it's hybrid in the right way and that they use it to make it faster and not more efficient.
They
Yeah.
actually just put
Or-
a Prius motor in it.
Just making it more efficient at being faster.
Yeah. I guess we'll close it out with this news topic.
Well, did you guys actually see? I know, a Volvo guy, and not anyone else is, but did you
What?
see the new Polestar 1?
The from like 2 months ago or whatever, the white one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
The hybrid with 600 horsepower and 737 horsepower.
And
Or torque, I meant.
they're making that in the States, they said, right? Or is
Yeah,
it-
they're very limited quantities, but
But didn't they say they're doing something different for the European version?
yeah, they're probably getting one with
They're
an
getting a
extra.
lot.
They're probably getting a little bit more power, but
And that's only going to be offered fully electric, that car?
no, it's a hybrid.
My bad, hybrid. They're
Yeah.
not doing a gasoline only version though, right?
No, this isn't even a true Volvo. It's a
Yeah, it's like Polestar is
Polestar-
what AMG is to Mercedes, essentially, kind of.
yeah, but Polestar is a little bit more. It's separate than Volvo. They work with them, but they're not owned by the same company.
Kind of like I don't know if you remember Renault Alpine. Like Alpine was separate from Renault. That's kind of like the same idea. But yeah,
and like Bertone for a lot of the
Yeah, yep.
like Ferraris, Lamborghinis.
Yeah. I think that if they make that car, it could possibly do really well. I mean, I don't imagine it being super expensive either.
Well, I think it's going to be like 130 euros, whatever that converts to.
so probably roughly,
150, 160.
and I believe an NSX is around there too, I want to say. So, like, I guess that's a cheaper alternative to your what we have nowadays, which is like 918s and P1s and all that, like outlandish hypercar stuff. But
Yeah, but this is more of a luxury car
yeah,
than
it's more of like a
hypercar.
Grand Tour cruiser thing.
Yeah, this isn't going to go around the Nürburgring that well. I don't imagine, at least.
I like the styling of it. I think it's like going in the right direction. Like honestly, I think Volvo right now has one of the best styling languages of like any manufacturer. Like their cars just look very. They have their styling down pat right now. I think. Like,
Oh, completely.
yeah, like I would honestly. Crazy for me to hear me say this, but I think like an XC90 looks better than like a new Porsche Cayenne. Like
I love the new XC90s.
yeah, they're so nice. And like they may not be the most powerful thing. People go like, "Oh, they're twin charged," yet they don't really make honestly that much power.
Well, they make over 400.
I think
The T8s.
the T8s, but I think
That's
I think a Cayenne though.
That's
like,
the 2-liter supercharged turbo hybrid, plug-in hybrid.
But I think the Cayenne Turbo makes more of that, and it's not twin charged. But with twin charged, you also get like the more
It's instant power.
instant power because the supercharger down low, the turbocharger up top, essentially. But yeah, I think that Volvo, especially the S90s too. I think the the S90 wagon,
The V90.
yeah, V90. That's a beautiful car too. I just think Volvo has a very good. Whoever's doing their designs right now has knows what a good car looks like, and it's like I think their cars very stand out from a lot of the other manufacturers right now. That's something about them is different and very attractive. But one more thing I want to touch on in the news. Now, I don't know how you guys are on Korean cars, but like we just had the new Kia Stinger come out, and I
Yes.
think the Kia Stinger is a very nice car. I think it's like 365 horsepower at twin turbo V6, and it's like, hey, you want the M3 or M4 experience without the price? Well, you can get this for like $45,000 and have like a great driver's car, and it's supposedly really nice inside.
Yeah, I think that is actually going to do Kia well.
Yeah,
I think that's going to bring a lot of people onto Kia and bring them to Hyundai and Kia. And
yeah, and then you're gonna have the new Genesis coming out, which I believe is gonna be the same.
The 4-door or 2-door?
4-door. The 2-door, I don't think they're doing anything 2-door as of yet. They've kind of gotten rid of that. They're trying to be like a Lexus kind of Infiniti, like a cheaper BMW sedan, kind of like a performance sedan thing with the Genesis and stuff. But yeah, they've been kind of stirring the pot lately, and they have the new Veloster N coming out. And it's basically a hot hatch. I don't know what you guys think.
It's still as ugly as the old one, in my opinion.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, John.
Yeah.
Does it still have the weird half door in the back on the one side?
Probably.
Yeah, there's the handle, the HRV handle. But I have to give them credit. At least they're trying. They're definitely if you look at Hyundai or Kia, in the mid 2000s, there's not a single thing I would want from them.
Nope.
No, but now they have the Genesis lineup and stuff, and they're trying to do stuff with the Veloster, for example. And I think the Korean manufacturers like Kia and Hyundai are going to be manufacturers we're going to start seeing cooler stuff coming out from. They're going to be, I want to say, what Mitsubishi and stuff used to be. Because you look at Mitsubishi, unfortunately, they probably make more money off of TVs and washing machines.
And air
shit.
conditioners.
Yeah.
I still have a Mitsubishi TV. It's probably as old as your stereo.
Don't get me wrong, I love Mitsubishi. It's just, I don't know, I hope they come out of their hole with crossovers trying to make them money, but I don't know where it's going right now. But
yeah, those crossovers are not going to do anything for them in the long run. We get a lot in at the body shop, and the quality is just not there. I mean, yes, half of them are destroyed, but the parts that aren't are just, the quality's not there. They have to revive themselves for sure.
Okay, well, that's that's the last thing I wanted to discuss in the news.
I will say it's a little bit nicer from the side than the old one.
Yeah, and I think this is... Do you remember a year ago they had the N920 thing? It was like a 5-door hatch. I don't know if that's what this is based off of, or if they're actually doing the N920. I can't even remember if that's what the last Hyundai that was unveiled was called.
I'm not sure. I like the light blue and the orange or red, whatever that is.
I will say, I was just about to touch on that myself, John. If they used a different color combination, or if they just...
It's like a spin-off on the old GT40 or whatever.
Golf livery, everything. But yeah, like, at least they're trying. Whereas you got your companies like Mitsubishi and Nissan, which are kind of like just like killing everything that's enthusiast based. Like they're not even trying with the Z anymore.
Well, what about Mazda? Mazda literally just makes sedans now and crossovers, and they're not even anything special.
They have the Miata too, which is I've yet to drive a new Miata. I want to.
I mean, that's the only thing they have going for them.
What I hear though from their cars is the way their chassis are set up is they're a fun car to drive. They may not be the most powerful thing on the market, but
you're talking about the Miatas, right?
Huh?
The Miatas are the regular production.
The general lineup.
The general lineup. Their like chassis are like very playful. Apparently, like I haven't.
Oh yeah, it dances all over the road.
Well,
I've driven plenty.
Well, journalists say, like, some journalists say, oh, what makes the Miata so nice is, like, you can feel the weight shift. That has, like, you can feel the body roll when you go in the turns. It's not, like, very, like, planted, like most modern cars today, which is kind of, I guess that kind of lends to its playfulness in a way. But,
I'm sure the Miata handles amazing, but they're...
Well, that's why I got a BRZ.
The 3 and the 5s... Like the Mazda 3s, Mazda 5s now, I think the older ones handled better.
That's because everything's starting to get a little bit bigger.
That's true.
They think that stiffer suspension is better, but then you hit a bump and the thing dances all over the road, and it's not even a comfortable stiff. I'd take coilovers adjusted all the way up rather than stock suspension at half the new cars out there.
Okay, well... We'll wrap the news up a bit, but yeah, in the end, I think Hyundai and Kia, I think we'll start to see more cool stuff from them, and
hopefully they don't get too expensive though, because
I don't think they
a lot of companies seem to have started out cheaper and more affordable to younger people.
I think that's what they're trying to fill is the person who wants like a performance, like for example the Kia Stinger, who wants like a performance sedan or something, and it's nice at the same time on the inside, but you're not spending like $60,000 on it. The Kia Stinger, like I said, is like $45,000.
Well, I'm talking more about the lower models, the Veloster and the
like the more like
the Elantras,
kind of
the ones that are turboed where people that don't have $35,000 to spend on a car and want something that's
kinda
a
like
little bit quick.
Like your $20,000 to $30,000 range.
Yeah, I just hope they stay in that range, because if they start breaking out of it, then there's going to be nothing semi-fun for people on a budget.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that.
Thanks. If you're car shopping nowadays, everything that used to be in the low to mid 20s is now in the mid to high 20s. So if you're looking at any kind of options at all, you're really looking at the low 30s.
That or a base Jetta.
Also true.
Nothing to look at.
Or we could all just buy 87 Yugos and then LS swap them.
I want a BMW iZeta. I'd put an LS in that if it'll fit.
Okay, well, I put up... I know it's our first episode, and it's already a shit show. But
we can edit that out.
Is that metaphorically or literally shit show?
It could be both. I put up an Instagram post saying we're recording, and I put up a Facebook post saying we're recording too. See if we get any questions. And we got one question on Instagram From,
Why are you doing this?
Yeah, actually, it's just about that, John. The question's for you.
Yeah, it is for you. It's from Hove AB. His that's his name on Instagram. I know him. He's Adam Hove. He has a podcast called the Shifts and Grins podcast. I recommend listening to that one. It's a good group of guys. He's asking you, is the S60R worth the headache?
Well, somehow, knock on wood, mine has
That's
not
glass.
been.
That's glass.
There's wood underneath it,
Okay.
but somehow, miraculously, mine has not been a headache for me, even though another person kind of crashed it, bottomed it out, and caused $1,000 worth of damage.
Previous owner?
No, the body shop manager.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember.
Yeah, when it got
went
tapped
through
in a
the
parking
fiasco.
lot, and it was a whole fiasco. But mine, even with that, hasn't been a headache, but I have seen plenty that people go from regular Volvos to the Rs, like the P2 chassis, S60R, V70Rs, and absolutely hate them. They are more expensive to maintain. They do break more often, but mine somehow, even with a stuck closed wastegate, has still gotten me to work and back, even after I hit 30 PSI one day. Thank God for my shimmed block, because I don't think the cylinder walls would have taken that normally.
Well, that's not a thing many people who don't know about Volvos know about, is the shimming of the blocks, right?
Yeah, because they took a 2.3 liter block and decided, let's make it a 2.5 and just bored it out bigger, which means the cylinder walls the liners are so thin that any increased heat, it just cracks the walls and you get
Let's
coolant
turn
in
up the
cylinders.
boost.
Yeah.
Not that much.
Turn it up like 2 PSI.
Okay, keep going up. Keep going. Okay, ping, ping, ping. Okay, we gotta go down.
But that car, the only time I've had to get it towed was because I got an axle put in it because I was at work and my friend put it in, and it turns out
That
to
wasn't
make
me, for the record.
Yeah, it was not Ryan, but it turned out to be an automatic passenger front axle, which is about half an inch too short, and it was in a rush. My friend just put it in because he ordered a manual one, and I got down the road in a snowstorm, and all of a sudden the car was just revving, and I was like, oh, I thought these were good in the snow. It was my first time driving it in the snow.
Summer tires.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it must be these
All
these
season,
shitty
more
all
like
seasons.
no season.
But so I actually ended up pulling onto Tyler's Road because the shop was down the street, and I shut off the car, turned it back on, and I got power again. So I started driving, and then all of a sudden I lost power. So I started getting frustrated, and I put it in reverse, and I didn't think of it, but I let out the clutch, and my foot was on the brake. I was still in reverse, and the car was still idling. And I was like, oh, I guess the axle's not in the transmission all the way. So I had to get it towed. The tow truck driver ripped off my front lip, but yeah, that's the only time it actually
buddy,
broke
you
down.
paid me to tow, not to watch out for your lowered ride height. And
It actually was stock height.
he doesn't deal with foreign shit. Okay, he deals with rusted out Jeeps probably. And
He was just confused why someone that wasn't 90 was driving a Volvo. But yeah, it hasn't been a headache for me. I love the car, but a lot of people that have owned them and went back to, say, like a 850 or a 240, all they do is talk bad about them, which I understand because there are a lot of issues with them. But I love mine. Mine has never given me a headache, so I'm one of the lucky ones.
Okay. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Adam.
I still wouldn't get one if I were you. I hope that answers your question.
Well, also the first years were the worst too, right?
The 04s are the redheaded stepchildren of the S60Rs.
And the other ones are just redheaded children.
No, I like redheads.
Okay. Okay, I hope that answered your question, Adam. And thanks again for the question. Well,
So I guess we got one subscriber, listener,
we have
follower.
one. We have one. So yeah, we have one subscriber.
We accomplished our goal. We can officially stop
yeah,
this.
Yeah, we can stop this.
It was nice broadcasting to you all.
This is the highest point of our podcast.
It's all downhill from here.
Yep. It was downhill once I hit record, honestly. Let me just check the Facebook. The Book of Faces.
It's probably the same question from the same person.
I should make a MySpace. My brother asked, I didn't mention this to you, Ryan.
Can I get back downstairs to play Rock Band?
Why didn't we name it 3 on the Tree, the podcast? And I'm like, oh, none of us drive 3 on the Tree. Then I'm like, oh, wait, we're 3 fucking hosts. It kind of could have worked, maybe.
It was a clever name.
Yeah. I'll be honest. John came up with the name for this podcast.
While I was drunk, about to go to sleep, and Tyler was hounding me about names.
That's the best time to come up with an idea for a podcast name, apparently.
Or a podcast.
Which apparently he liked so much he didn't even bother asking me for names.
Well, we already had the name before you.
Yeah, we had the name before you.
Oh, that's fair.
You were an afterthought, Ryan. No, we're glad we have you on the podcast, and I'm hoping this turns into something big. Forgive everybody for the mess ups. Like I said, the Hammer had a 6-cylinder at one point, which I know it didn't now.
Ask for a pass on any inaccurate information this time around,
I'm sure
and probably the next several.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Our brains are only so big, we can't retain that much information.
Yes. What did I just say?
What are we doing?
Oh, podcasts. Casts. Okay. Yeah, thanks again for following us. If you are, you can reach us on social media, at Gear Clash on Instagram, Gear Clash on Facebook. You guys want to plug your Instagram or Facebook? Where are you on Instagram, John?
John Agee. We'll put a link on it because you're not going to know how to spell it.
Yep. And then Ryan.
I'll add a link to mine as well because it's back to the drawing board with underscores in between each word.
Okay, and mine is Who's Your Daddy, the tire, Who's Your Daddy RS, because I own an RS 911 in my imagination. Thanks again, guys, for listening. We're going to try to do these every week, or maybe starting out, they're going to be bi-weekly, but we eventually want to do podcasts every week. We kind of got busy schedules, but we're going to try our best to push one out every week. That's not a poop joke. But, yep, thank you for listening, and see you all soon.